day. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here today at Unit 4, Local 414 here in Milton. And it's great to see Mayor Krantz, who's doing a phenomenal job for his residents. And I always say, longest serving mayor in Canada. Again, Mayor, thank you for coming out.
Thanks, Premier.
Thank you. There he is, the champion. And thank you, Gord Curry, President of Local 414, for hosting us today. And thank you to Jerry, Smokey, Patty, Jim, Craig, and Charles, and everyone else joining me here this morning for an exciting announcement about our government's plan that's working for workers. The folks I'm standing with here today are some of the top labor leaders in Ontario and collectively represent millions of hardworking men and women and their families. They are fierce advocates for their members and have worked hard during the pandemic to defend and represent the interests of workers. And I want to specifically recognize Jerry for his leadership for making today's announcement possible. During the pandemic, Ontario has relied more than ever on our families, our frontline workers. They've operated our subways, trains, and buses, taught our kids, and made sure our schools, grocery stores, and businesses remain safe and clean. And while their contributions weren't always recognized, these unsung heroes made sacrifices we will never forget. When it mattered most, our workers met the moment. In grocery stores, in factories, in retail and hospitality, you showed up. You did what it took to keep the supply chains running, to keep food on our shelves, and to keep the services we desperately needed operating. And for this, every Ontarian owes a debt of gratitude to you. When it mattered most, we were able to count on you, and now it's our turn. For many Ontarians, wages haven't kept up with the increasing cost of living, making it harder than ever to make ends meet. I've always said, workers deserve to have more money in their pockets because they earned it. They've worked hard and put in long hours. The least the government can do is ensure we're making life more affordable for them by putting real dollars in their pocket. That's why I'm so proud to stand here with Minister McNaughton and Minister Bethlenfalvy and PA Deepak Anand, side by side with our great labor partners, to announce that our government will raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour effective January 1st, 2022. This change would mean a full-time minimum wage worker could see a raise of $1,350 a year. This change would also see liquor servers in the hospitality sector treated more fairly by increasing their minimum wage from $12.55 to $15 an hour, a 19.5% pay bump. Students under 18, hunting and fishing guides, and home workers would also see an increase to their minimum wage. As a result of these changes, more than 760,000 Ontario workers will be getting a raise. I can't think of a better way for our government to be working for workers than ensuring hundreds of thousands of people take more pay home. Recently, Minister McNaughton and I sat down with labor leaders, including the people standing with us today, to get their input on how our government can continue to support workers and keep our province on a strong economic footing. During that discussion, the latest of many over the years, increasing the minimum wage quickly rose to the top of the list. Our government couldn't agree more. And I look forward to ongoing discussions with labor partners as we tackle the big challenges that lay ahead. As we look to solve them, our government remains committed to an economic recovery fueled by growth, not by painful tax hikes or severe spending cuts. And that will mean getting to work, to build hospitals and long-term care, to build roads, highway, transit, and affordable homes, to build an economy that makes Ontario the best place to work and raise a family. It means we'll need to keep working hard to fix the province's labor shortage, especially at a time when manufacturing shows strong signs of coming back to Ontario. And it means never wavering in our plan that's working for workers. That's why our government introduced the Working for Workers Act, to build a stronger economy by taking the side of workers. Ontario is leading the way, not only here in Canada, but across North America. We're cracking down on recruiters and temporary help agencies who don't follow the rules. We're making sure that delivery workers are treated with the respect they deserve by giving them access to bathrooms along their route. We're breaking down barriers newcomers face by removing unfair requirements for Canadian work experience so that they can find good work in Ontario. And today, we're announcing a well-deserved raise for hardworking Ontarians. And we're doing all of this because this government will always remain on the side of the workers. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Minister McNaughton.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Premier, very much. It's great to be here at Unifor Local 414 and 462 with people who work for workers every single day. Like the Premier, my colleagues, Minister Bethlenfalvy, and my Parliamentary Assistant, Deepak Anand, and my good friends, Jerry Diaz and Smokey Thomas. I want to thank Jerry and his team and all the Unifor workers that are here today and thank them for hosting us. Today's announcement is good news for workers, their families, and everyone in all of our communities. And it truly is an important step in rebalancing the scales and putting workers in the driver's seat. Our mission is to build back a better Ontario. As we look to the future, we're not going back to where we were before. We're lifting people up. Our government is working for workers. Throughout the pandemic, frontline workers in grocery stores and in shops braved it all to get us the supplies we needed. It's because of them that shelves were stocked and families had food on their tables. I want to thank these workers for their dedication and for their perseverance. We know it has not been easy. Many of these frontline workers make minimum wage, and they've been at their workplaces while many people have been working from home. And that's why we're here today. We don't take their service lightly. It's because of them that our economy is restarting. Every day, more businesses are reopening and, most importantly, staying open. Many people who have lost jobs have now regained them. This is especially true in retail, accommodation, and food services, where more than half of Ontario's minimum wage earners work. They fell behind through no fault of their own, and they can't wait another year for an increase. They have bills to pay and kids to feed. These workers deserve their fair share of the economic pie. Increasing the minimum wage will make a big difference to those who need our help the most. These workers will receive more back in their pockets to help them make ends meet. And when workers are stronger, they build strong families and even stronger communities, and that's good news for all of us. This increase will help about 750,000 workers across our province, and supporting them will help protect the progress that we've made. Together, Ontario has come a long way. We can't lose the ground we've worked so hard to gain. Workers across Ontario are all different, and the type of work they do is different. But their work ethic and dedication are what unites all of us. And that's why we're standing with them. It's why we're working for workers. Thank you, and now I'm pleased to introduce the Minister of Finance, Minister Bethlenfalvy, to the podium. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Minister McNaughton. It's great to be here with the Premier and Minister McNaughton today, along with advocates for workers, Jerry Diaz, National President of Unifor, Noreen Rizvi, Unifor's Ontario Regional Director, and Warren Smokey Thomas, the President of OPSEU. I'm also just want to say Parm Gill couldn't be here today, the MPP for Milton, because he has a family issue. We wish him and his family well. I'm so glad to be announcing our government's plan to increase the minimum wage, as well as the end of the separate minimum wage for servers and bartenders. For the past 18 months, the focus of every major fiscal update from our government has been protecting people and protecting jobs. My role as Minister of Finance is to make sure we continue doing just that. An incredible debt of gratitude is owed to the workers of Ontario. These dedicated men and women have kept store shelves stocked and supply chains going throughout COVID-19. Ontario workers should be in a race to the top, not a race to the bottom. But for many people, take-home pay has not kept up with the cost of living. They had Ontario's back, and today's announcement demonstrates that we have theirs. To support workers, the government is proposing to raise the general minimum wage, including for liquor servers, to $15 per hour effective January 1, 2022. The special minimum wage for liquor servers was based on the rationale that they received tips from customers. But throughout the pandemic, the hospitality industry was hit hard, and those tips dried up. With this change, the special liquor servers rate will be eliminated, and full-time liquor servers will receive $5,100, that's $5,100 more in 2022. We anticipate this change will boost annual wages in the food and beverage sector by an estimated $80 million. Full-time general minimum wage workers will see about $1,350 more in 2022. Student minimum wage will also see a proportional increase of 4.5%, meaning that earnings will rise by about $780 in 2022. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our government has been steadfast in our commitment to make every necessary resource available. Depuis le début de la pandémie, notre gouvernement restait inébranlable dans son engagement à débloquer toutes les ressources nécessaires to protect people, to protect jobs, and to protect our progress in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Pour protéger la population, protéger les emplois et protéger nos progrès dans la lutte contre la pandémie de COVID-19. Raising the minimum wage is just part of the government's plan to make Ontario the top place to live, work, and raise a family. And the qualities that saw our province through the worst days of COVID-19, the spirit of the people of this province, will help us build a brighter and more prosperous future. This Thursday, I will be releasing the next chapter in our plan for building the foundation for our province's recovery and prosperity in the 2021 Ontario Economic Outlook and Fiscal Review. At that time, we will provide more details about how the government is working for workers to build an Ontario where workers and families can not only recover, but thrive. So thank you, and I now will invite Jerry Dias to the podium. Thank you.
Today is, first of all, my name is Jerry Dias, the National President of Unifor. Today is an incredibly important day, not only for the 760,000 workers in Ontario that will see their minimum wage increased, but for the tens of thousands of unionized workers in the grocery store industry who will see their wages increased as well as a result of clauses in the collective agreement that talk about minimum wage plus. So this will increase our members' salaries significantly as well. So I'd just like to start off first of all by thanking my friend Smokey Thomas, the various other labor leaders that are here today, the Premier, Peter and Monte, for us all coming together as we try to move forward initiatives that will help working class people. We have spent a lot of time talking to this government, and we've been frustrated at times, but when we're at an opportunity where we can talk about what makes the most important, it's important that the labor movement and the government pulls together in order to celebrate these types of victories. Now, we spent a lot of time talking to the government over frustration with Bill 124, Bill 47, and these are ongoing discussions we're still going to have with them as a labor movement. But we're also talking to them about minimum wage, and we're talking to them about a living wage. And the government is understanding that a living wage in Ontario will move from $16.20 in London to $22 an hour, of course, in Toronto. So that's why we are saying and recognizing that today is a good start, because there's still so much work to do. But any time that we can increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which we know the majority of minimum wage workers in this province are women. It's a day in which to recognize that things are moving in the right direction. So with that, I would like to turn it over to my friend Smokey Thomas, the president of OPSEU. Smokey.
Well, I wrote down some stuff, but since Jerry went off the cuff, I just want to make sure I don't miss a couple of points. But I would would like to start by thanking Jerry for asking me to be here today to say a few words. And of course, I'd really like to say thank you to the Premier, to Monte and Peter, the two ministers, and for recognizing and listening to working people and actually raising minimum wage. I'd also like to say that when this government first got elected, we had our bumps. I said some not so nice things about the Premier on many occasions. But I got to know the Premier at the start of the pandemic. And he gave me a phone call and he said, Smokey, can we put partisanship aside and shake hands and agree to work together during the pandemic to help the people of Ontario, and then keep on working if we can to further help the people of Ontario? And I said, sir, I'm reaching through the phone to shake your hand. And I've not looked back. And do working people have everything we want? No. But, for the first time in dealing with three governments, we actually have a government that is listening and actually doing some very positive things for working people. I truly believe that it'll be up to the people of Ontario to decide on that, come the next election. But the good things that, Minister McNaughton, Minister Bethlenfalvy, and Premier Ford are doing for working people are not lost on me. And I'm very pleased to say, and I really do welcome the opportunity on behalf of OPSEU members to have those conversations with ministers. With Minister Phillips about long-term care, all the good announcements that he's made and will make in the coming weeks and days and weeks. So I just want to say, Premier Ford, thank you very much. Jerry, thanks for having me here. And this really is, I think, a monumental day for Ontarians, especially people who make minimum wage. Around 15,000 of my members, believe it or not, make minimum wage. So I think they're pretty happy today. So thank you very much.
Okay, we're ready to take questions. For the members of the media here today, if you could just form a line behind the microphone. And a reminder, it's one question and one follow-up.
Richard, Southern City News 680. How are you, Premier?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm all right, thanks.
Good.
Nice and chilly here.
Yeah.
Premier, a number of studies recently, including one by the Ontario Living Wage Network, has found that there is nowhere in Ontario where you can live on $15 an hour. The bare minimum needed just to put food on the table in the GTA is pegged at just over $22. Premier, do you think you could live on $15 an hour, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Richard, but this is a great start for 760,000 people to get an increase, and liquor servers getting a 19.5% increase. I think this is a great start. We always thrive to grow that, but again, this is a great start. I want to thank the labor leaders and Smokey and Jerry for sitting down at the table, and other labor leaders to see how we can move forward. But this is a great day again. 760,000 people just got a raise, and another thing is that they have jobs. The previous administration lost 300,000 jobs. We gained 307,000 before the pandemic, and now we're short labor. So something, we're going in the right direction. I believe in being collaborative and sitting down and listening to the labor leaders and other folks too, business owners as well.
Premier, you mentioned the liquor server wage going up more than $2 an hour, which is great for workers so long as they have a job. Many bars and restaurants, as you know, are teetering on the financial brink right now, and they say they weren't consulted about this. Premier, do you think bars and restaurants in Ontario can afford this now at perhaps the most difficult financial time they've ever faced?
Well, I appreciate that. With the labor shortage, we always look at it. Are people even be able to, what I hear from owners of bars and restaurants, they can't get people. So that's the first thing. The second thing is We spend well over $4 billion in supporting small business owners, be it restaurants, bars, other small business owners, again, to a tune of $4 billion, making sure we worked hand in hand with the government for helping them with their wages. The province took care of every cost, from making sure we took care of their electricity costs, their taxes, their water bills, all their overhead. Again, working with the federal government, the rent subsidies. We also gave grants. We doubled the grants for tens of thousands of dollars. So we're taking care of the businesses, but now today we need to take care of the workers. We need to take care of the 760,000 workers, and I'm just happy as anything that they're going to get a little bit of a bump there.
Hey, good morning, Premier Ford. Colin DeMello from CTV News. You just acknowledged that wages have not kept up with the cost of living. Certainly, you would have known that back in 2018, 2019. Can you give us your rationale in 2018 for freezing the minimum wage and denying workers an increase?
Well, Colin, that's like comparing apples and oranges. We didn't have the pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. Everyone's been facing a challenge over the last 20 months. Things were a lot different back in 2018. You see the escalation because of the carbon tax. Gas is going up 10 cents a liter. Everything's going up. And we need to take care of the 760,000 people that were on minimum wage. Now we gave them a little bump. That's going to help them. But there's always a lot of work to do moving forward.
Okay, so let's talk about gas prices then. You promised during the last election to reduce it by 10 cents. You did by, I believe it was about 4.3 cents a liter.
Right.
There's still about 5 cents left to cut the provincial portion of the gas tax. When are we going to see the Ford government actually cut the 5 cents per liter off the tax to make gas prices cheaper?
What I can tell you, Colin, we're going to keep our promise at 10 cents. I just wish the federal government would fall in line as well. We're reducing costs and they keep jacking the cost up. So again, I just hope they would be able to reduce the gas prices when people are struggling more than ever. That's what we need. We need a good partnership, and we've worked very well with the federal government, very well throughout this pandemic. But we can't keep increasing the costs and just putting the burdens on the backs of people when they're driving. These gas prices are out of control. I'm asking the federal government, stand shoulder to shoulder with us. Reduce the gas tax that you're getting. We will do our fair share. We've already done 4.3 cents. We'll commit to up towards the 10 cents, inclusive of the 4.3 cents. But cut the gas prices. Give the folks a break, because that's what drives the cost up on everything. I've said this for years. And so if the feds are listening, stand shoulder to shoulder with us. You've done it throughout the pandemic. And by the way, you did a great job. You spent billions of dollars supporting people across the country, supporting the provinces. Now it's time to put money back into people's pockets. And there's no better way than reducing gas costs.
Hi, Premier. It's Lorenda Redicop with CBC
Lorenda.
News.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. You mentioned to Colin that one difference between now versus 2018 is the pandemic. Another difference is that the election is coming up in a few months, and we've heard from your critics them saying that they believe that that's what this is about, is trying to gain votes, and that your strategy has changed completely because of the election coming. What's your response to that?
Well, number one, with my critics, they've sat back for 20 months on the sidelines, trying to scare people, misleading people, and they've just been critics on the sidelines doing absolutely nothing. We've been in the trenches. We've been in the trenches with the frontline workers. We've been in the trenches with the labor leaders. We're sitting down. We're changing things. We're moving forward with the economy. It's easy to play the armchair quarterback and take shots from the sidelines when you sit down and do absolutely nothing and vote against every single thing we did. And they'll probably vote against the minimum wage increase too, because that's what they do. So we're moving forward.
The next question is from my colleague Mike Crowley. It's primarily for Minister Bethlenfalvy, though Premier, you can also add something if you like. So looking ahead to the fall economic statement on Thursday, we keep hearing other ministers say that the government is going to make sure workers have more take-home pay. What does that mean? Is that a tax cut, credit?
I'll pass it over to the finance minister.
Thanks, Lorena, for asking that on behalf of Mike Crawley. Please say hello to Mike. Mike and you and others will, I'm sure, tune in on Thursday. You know, one of the big things about the fall economic statement is, you know, we've been battling together COVID-19 for over a year and a half, and we're going to continue to protect that progress that we've made in our healthcare system to beat COVID-19. We've made great progress, but we're not going to take our foot off the pedal. But we also are going to be building Ontario. You've seen a number of announcements over the past 3 years under the leadership of Doug Ford and our government to build things, not just talk about things, but build Ontario. And a big part of that is our transit, our highways, our broadband, our hospitals and long-term care. So much more to do, and not just talk about it, but actually get it done is so important. So as we pivot into the economic recovery, and finally, we're going to talk a lot about working for workers, because, you know, it takes all 15 million Ontarians to rebuild this province, to move forward, to build on the foundation of what was once the economic engine of Confederation. And the best way forward, as Premier Ford has done, and the many leaders like Smokey and Jerry and all the folks standing behind us here today, it takes everyone and their leadership to build this province. And that's what we're going to do and talk about at the fall economic statement. So
Tax cut versus tax credit?
Well, show up on Thursday and we'll let you know.
Hi, Premier. Alison Jones with the Canadian Press.
Hey, Alison.
I wanted to follow up on your answer to Colin's question. He asked why you didn't let the $15 increase go ahead back in 2018, 2019, but you are bringing it in now. You said the difference was the pandemic. Does that mean we wouldn't be here today with this announcement were we not in a pandemic?
Well, I just want to remind you, when we did take office, we gave a lift tax credit. Anyone under $28,000 is paying zero tax. We have one of the lowest personal income taxes in the entire country that other provinces don't have. So we were helping out on that end. We got the economy going. Again, I want to remind people, this province was in a financial disaster before we took over. We had the highest debt, highest hydro rates. People lost 300,000 jobs. We turned that around with the support of the people of Ontario to create the environment for 307,000 new jobs. That's 307,000 more people bringing home a paycheck, and that makes a big difference.
Another pandemic-related question. We know that you're aiming to start lifting the vaccine passport requirements in January, other restrictions in March. Are you considering at all an endpoint for workplace vaccine mandates, like the education workers who are unvaccinated having to get tested, or the long-term care mandate?
Well, I'm always going to consult with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, which I have right from the get-go of this pandemic. We'll have discussions, and with the advice of the Chief Medical Officer and other health experts, that's what will make our determination. But thank you for the question.
Hi, Premier. This is Bianca from the Financial Post.
Hi, Bianca.
My question is that right now, Ontarians and all of Canada are experiencing strong inflation rates, and raising the minimum wage would likely feed into raising prices. Will this not raise prices for Canadians who are already experiencing high grocery costs, high gas costs, etc.?
Well, what raises costs, which I've said from the beginning, when you jack up the cost of gasoline and you're paying 10, 15, 20 cents more delivering goods, that's what costs. And we want to reduce the cost of gasoline and other areas. But what we believe in is making sure that we get the economy booming, and we don't believe in big, huge tax hikes. We truly believe, talking to the people and they're listening today, you can spend your money a lot wiser than the government, all three levels of government. We put money back into your pockets. You're going to stir the economy. You're going to go out, maybe have a bite to eat, buy a refrigerator, do a renovation. But you're a lot smarter when it comes to spending money than all three levels of government, in my opinion. And that goes for business as well. Put money back into businesses' pockets. They're going to reinvest it into people, into equipment, into technology. And that's where we're going to be leading North America in job creation, economic development, because of the people here in Ontario, because of the great labor leaders standing with us today. It's a joint effort. As Peter mentioned, we can't do this alone. The government can never do it alone. We need the help of the people and the labor leaders and businesses, everyone working together, and that's exactly what we're doing.
I have a follow-up question
Yes.
for Mr. Dias. So I was wondering, what do you think the minimum wage should be? Is this enough?
Well, first of all, I think we have to have a living wage. In order to get to a $22 living wage in Toronto, you're going to have to go through 15. A living wage in London, Ontario is about $16.20. So do I think $15 is wonderful? The answer is no. But do I think it's a good start? The answer is yes, as we continue to push and fight for a living wage. Now look, today's announcement, and I said right from the beginning, is a good start. But there's a lot of other work that there still has to be done. Am I concerned about Bill 124 that restricts public sector wages to 1%? The answer is yes. Am I concerned about my orange helicopters having their wages capped at 1%? The answer is yes. Do I think we should have permanent sick days in this province? The answer is yes. So there's a lot of areas that we are continuing to push and are not going to stop pushing. So do I spend a fair bit of time talking to the Premier? The answer is yes. The various ministers, the answer is yes. Do they know what's going on in my head? The answer is also yes. So there's a lot of work to do, and we understand what our role is, and our role is to continue to push for working class people.
Thank you.
Hi, Premier. Matthew Bingley from Global News.
Matthew.
I just have to go back to another question that was asked already about the election. Your critics today are going to say that this is nothing more than trying to influence that vote. How can you convince people that this is not that cynical approach?
Well, again, talk about cynics. They're the ones sitting on the sidelines doing absolutely nothing while we've been working our backs off, all the people of Ontario, for the last 20 months. You know, right from the get-go, when our family got into politics, we're for the working people, plain and simple, bottom line. People know it. You know, I'm out there meeting the hardworking folks day in and day out. I will always be for the workers, always. And I take that from my brother Rob. He was for the workers as well. I'm not going to waver on that. In conjunction, we understand that businesses have to survive as well, and there's a lot of business owners out there, small business owners, that need the support, and we gave them the support of $4 billion. So, but again, this is about giving 760,000 people more money in their pockets, putting more money on the table, may pay rent or be able to do things they might otherwise not be able to do. And it also gives them a stepping stone to go to another level, and so on, so forth. So I'm so happy that we're giving an increase to 760,000 people here in Ontario.
You were talking about being in the trenches along with workers. Your opponents again have pointed out that it took ages for you to put paid sick leave in during the pandemic, and that you dragged your feet on that. Why did it take so long to get to this point, and why are we not hearing about permanent pay increases to PSWs at the same time?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the PSWs. I spoke to an incredible PSW this morning named Jennifer. Had a great conversation, put me on speaker with other PSWs, and I guaranteed her that she's going to continue getting the $3, and we will make it permanent. So the most important thing is giving them certainty that they're going to continue on with a $3 an hour increase. I thanked them because, in my opinion, PSWs, frontline healthcare workers, and so many other people, they're the heroes. And I told her that she's underpaid, overworked. So we're trying to make that permanent, which we will, as quickly as possible. So all the PSWs, I think the world of you. I couldn't do your job, I'll tell you that.
This will be our last reporter.
Hi, Premier.
Hi.
Laura Stone, Globe and Mail.
Hi, Laura.
I think some people watching this press conference might think we've walked into a bit of a bizarro world of you standing here with very high-profile union leaders after some previous comments you've made about unions and such. So are you a big union supporter guy? Is this a change for Premier Ford, and is that going to be a message in the election?
I'm a big frontline worker supporter, as they are. There's one thing we all have in common, and Jerry, he wants more people employed. Smokey, he wants more people employed. But again, I go back to our family roots, and I'm not going to mention the federal politician. I have a great relationship. The person said, Doug, you aren't about PC policies, liberal policies, or NDP. you know, you have Ford politics. And I said, what's Ford politics? Taking care of everyone. And that's the way our family's done it for years. We're going to continue taking care of the frontline workers, and our record speaks for itself all the way back to when Rob got elected for mayor. But I appreciate the question.
Okay, thank you. And just as a follow-up, I'd like to ask Jerry. We were speaking on Friday, and I'm upset you didn't give me any hints about this. But anyway, you've talked about being ABC, anyone but conservative. You've run ads against the Conservatives in the past. So is this a change for Unifor? Do you plan to be campaigning against the Progressive Conservatives in the next election, or are you willing to work with this party and potentially not be aligned with the NDP or Liberals as in the past?
Look, today's announcement is about 760,000 Ontarians. It's about our members that'll get a pay increase today, as well as members that work for the UFCW and other unions in this province. Look, has this government done things that have raised my ire? The answer is yes. Do we still continue to debate over some policy initiatives they've implemented that I totally disagree with? The answer is yes. But the bottom line is I'm here today understanding that we're having a discussion on minimum wage, recognizing that it's a good start. And so I want to restrict today's comments to what we're doing by raising the tides for a lot of workers that desperately need it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Me too. Great to see you.
I was already figured out how to.
Oh, this is.